Great. Well, thank you all for joining me today. I do see some new faces and some familiar faces, so I like the mix of turnout. We are recording. We will have questions at the end of the presentation, and I'm going to be going over agency reporting training from the Maryland Green Purchasing Committee. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sam Linton, and I'm the Green Purchasing Data Coordinator here as a staff member of the Green Purchasing Committee. Vicki Nellis is the Green Purchasing Program Manager, so we work together to carry out all of the functions of our program, including this training right here to go over agency reporting training. That's kind of my wheelhouse of the work that I do. So with that, let's get started. So we're going to go over what the reporting requirements are for all state agencies and how vendors are required to provide reports that you submit then to us, the Green Purchasing Committee. We're going to go over what commodity categories there are that are reportable. And I do want to put a side note there that Vicki will be sharing some resources and links in the chat as I go on. So when I do mention some resources or links, it'll be up there for you to look in more detail. So after the commodity categories report, we're gonna just do a quick walkthrough through the reporting template, and I'm gonna go through it nice and slowly with you so that we all can kind of see how it all comes together. But really the reason for all that we do at the Green Purchasing Committee is really from this regulation in COMAR that all procurement agencies are required to buy green. What it says in language is shall purchase environmentally preferable products and services. That basically means we are required to buy green. There are these three caveats. They do not perform adequately for intended use, exclude adequate competition, or not available at reasonable price in a reasonable period of time. The green market for products has grown so much, and this regulation has been, and this regulation was passed quite some time ago, so these caveats are coming less and less into play, and the green option is typically widely available no matter what you're buying. So in most cases, in 99% of cases, you are required to buy green. And the way to, and also to sum that up, we are required to report on that. So for us to know if we're buying green or not, we need that documented. So this is also in COMAR that on or before September 1st of each year, the procurement agency shall report to DGS on the agency's procurement involving green products and services for the preceding fiscal year. So that's for the total fiscal year, and it is quarterly submissions that we request. Now that is kind of for our own it's kind of for our own benefit so that we don't have all 4 quarters being sent by everybody at the same time. It gives us an opportunity to like make sure that, that the process is being done until, waiting until the end of that September 1st deadline. So we request quarterly sales data. And we have this reporting language here that is really useful to include in any of your future contracts or solicitations, in the language before that contract is approved. So this reporting language you can incorporate requesting from vendors and for future contracts that the contractor shall submit quarterly sales data to the state over the life of its contract. It has to include details of environmental attributes like recycled content, any third-party certifications that are relative to sustainability, and any other environmental attributes. So since we're asking for that, the Green Purchasing Committee, we created a vendor green sales report template for that quarterly reporting to actually happen. So we provided a template that I am going to go through that has the details of all the things that we need from that report. And so by submitting a response to the solicitation, the bidder or offer acknowledges a commitment to support to submitting the quarterly sales data. And it also has in here that if they're not being compliant, any vendor that fails to submit the quarterly report may be out of compliance and therefore receive a cure notice from the procurement officer. So we drafted that that language for you to incorporate. It's not copyrighted, so of course you can just use the exact language that we have. That would probably be the easiest process for requesting data from vendors. So what categories do we cover specifically? What are we looking at that we say that needs to be reported in terms of product categories? So we have 8 categories listed here: construction and maintenance products, electronics and IT/appliances, food serviceware, janitorial supplies, lighting, office supplies, paints and coatings, and landscaping supplies. So it does cover a lot of different product categories. There are more categories that can be covered, but certain categories are much more difficult to green. So looking at these 8 different categories, we were able to look through and see that, okay, there are many environmental attributes that are available that can be incorporated in these products and purchased and verified as a green product. So those are the 8 categories that we cover. In this case, for the agency report, it's important to note that we already receive data from a number of statewide vendors. And the reason for this slide is to remove any data from any of these statewide vendors, because we've already received their report in a separate spreadsheet. So it's not all of the statewide vendors that Maryland has, but we have up to 20 right here. So to give an example, you know, the janitorial supplies that, you know, our preferred provider, BISM, is our first option. We already received their vendor report. So for your agency report, you can remove BISM from that list of vendors to add to there. Similarly, if you're getting office furniture from MCE, or if there's electronics and IT products that you utilize maybe Canon or Xerox or one of these IT vendors, again, doesn't have to be included in the report. If it is included in the report, it's not a huge issue. I just remove it because we don't want to duplicate our spend numbers in that way. So anything that was purchased directly from your agency that isn't one of these 20 statewide vendors does need to be reported. So we've had this question before about P-card purchases, and you know, this report does include all purchases from any level to purchasing something quick on Amazon because it's quick and convenient, or whether it's, you know, utilizing some other type of contract or a larger size procurement. But yes, we do want to have P cards in this report. Now, we know that it's challenging because in the P card report, you don't get that level 3 data that's necessary for submitting a green purchasing report, because the level 3 data will have those environmental attributes. But the GPC has a graph P-card reporting document that agencies can use to help track P-card purchases. This is definitely a challenge that we are aware of, and we are working to, you know, make that process a lot smoother to be able to report out P-card purchases. But right now we don't have a full system for how to do that yet. But there have been P-card trainings that have been given in the past by Vicky. So it's something that's definitely on our radar that we're continuing to make a much smoother process in the future. So include P-card purchases if you can. There's going to be, you know, a process for how to track that, and there is some guidance that we can provide, but it kind of depends also on your agency and their process. So we do recognize that P-card purchases are important and that they're hard to report out. We have gotten some P-card purchases reported in the past, so we understand that it's possible, but there's a lot of challenges there. So, but that's kind of to note that we are looking at all purchases in this report from your agency. So here's a couple of other common questions that we get. If all of your agency's purchases, let's say for fiscal year 26, quarters 1 and 2, you notice that everything is either off of like BISM, your preferred providers, or, you know, the office supply vendor like Rudolph or AJ's that we had listed there before. Maybe your agency, you know, is smaller in staff, so probably doesn't need to purchase as much. So this is the case for a number of agencies. So that's why I want to bring this up. And the answer to that is you don't need to include any line items in your report, but you do have to confirm with the GPC that that is the case, that you either had utilized all statewide vendors that were listed there, you looked through your reports and saw that there weren't any other statewide vendors not on the list that needed to be reported, or you can send the template making a note that there's no agency data for this quarter. So, and that is to keep track of like responsiveness and making sure that we're complying with that regulation and that statute that all agencies have to report. And so that basically checks you down, checks you off for compliance there. It will be the case that not every agency will have reportable data for every fiscal quarter. So that answers your question about that. If the vendors are not sending their data or not responding to my emails, what should I do? First, you should notify us and say what vendors you're having issues with. We can reach out to them with some more follow-up and mention the statutes in place for providing reportable data. So we will reach out to them and try to work with them to provide data. That is a constant challenge that we face on our end as well. So we do have some strategies for how to try to get people who aren't responding to perhaps provide data in the future. But at a minimum, just notify us and let us know that you're having trouble with some vendors being responsive, and then we can work with you from there. Very important note about reporting, because there's a lot of situations where vendors say, well, I don't see anywhere in the contract where I have to report. And that retroactively trying to get data from them is much more of a challenge than this strategy, which is to make sure that the green reporting requirements are included in solicitations and subsequent contracts, so that vendors are required to report on their sales. That slide I showed earlier with the reporting language that the GPC developed, again, these slides are going to be shared with all of you in a PDF format, so that reference for the vendors to not include the reporting language, it'll all be available to you after the presentation. So use that reporting language in future solicitations and subsequent contracts. That will be the best way to make sure that the vendors are on the hook for providing data to you. So now that we've kind of gone over what to include, what not to include, and kind of the process and the requirements, we're now going to look at what the reporting template contains. and how to analyze the data that vendors have submitted to you, and how to properly submit it to the GPC, making sure that it's fully completed and accurate. So there's 6 different sheets in the Excel document. A summary of all of the spend totals, the instructions for how to fill out each column. The commodity sheet is where all of the line items will be shown for what the agency purchased. There's also a page for services to report. We have gotten some reported services in the past, and that's another thing that I'll get into in a little bit. And then 2 sheets for reference of eco-labels by each commodity category. It'll make a lot more sense when I have images of it here, yes. So no need for you to do anything in the summary sheet. That is for DGS to fill out at the end after all of the fiscal quarters have been submitted. Instructions that go through how to fill out each column. And again, I'm going to pull up the template and make it bigger so that we can read it, but an explanation for how to fill out each column. This is where the vendors report their line item, by line item, their commodities. Also for services, and here is the reference table for each commodity category and the eco labels that fall under it. For example, we have our 8 commodity categories listed in the columns, and the eco labels, the third-party certifications, that is, on the left-hand side in the rows. Now, I know a number of you might be new to the idea of what are eco labels, what are you talking about, but these are just, it's verification that it's a green product. And there's certain eco labels that fall under different product categories. Like, for example, BPI right up here is an eco label for the compostability of certain products. It's third-party verified, so it verifies that it is green. And that falls under food serviceware products and janitorial services and supplies. So that's kind of a reference for how to read it. I know that when a big table with all these images shows up, it's a bit hard to read, but hopefully that clarifies it a little bit. And there are eco labels recognized for different services, mostly landscaping and IPM services, because those are typically the easiest to green. But we have a reference table for that too. So if a data submission is complete and looks good, I know that this image is a little bit hard to read, but what I want you to gain from this image is that every column is filled out, even if it's something that is not available, it still says NA. And this basically will give all of the information necessary for the Green Purchasing Committee to gather that information and be able to report annually what green products where we are with our green spend, and also with compliance, like who is submitting reports and how how complete are they. So it's a little sample entry of things being filled out, but I am gonna switch my screen real quick to bring up the data template to give a further explanation of that. So bear with me for a second while I get this open. Why is it not? Sorry. For some reason, it's not showing. I'm sorry.
We're going to blame all technical issues on the update to Google Meet.
So I'm trying to, sorry, Vicky, I'm trying to pull up the Excel spreadsheet, but it's on a different window. But when I'm looking at share different window, it doesn't show up. Maybe I need to stop presenting and then present again.
Like I said, all technical issues are being blamed on Google Meet today.
Okay, well, I did have sample data that was filled out in this report, so that's why I'm trying to pull it up here. I'm sorry, folks, bear with me. I might just have to pull it up from the website and then go over the spreadsheet where it's blank, but still get the gist of it.
I can share a blank one if you'd like. I don't have any data filled out, but I do have the blank template open.
Okay. Oh, now it's working. Imagine
There
that.
we go.
Okay. You're all able to see this? Yes?
Yep, looks good.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. All right. Now we are in the spreadsheet. I apologize for those technical difficulties. I'm not going to spend too much time on the summary sheet. Again, this is for the very end where agencies fill, or where DGS, us, we fill out the total spend numbers. And let me zoom out just a bit. So the reporting instructions for someone, for a first-time user, or I guess, or a first time someone's opening up this document, this will be useful for the instructions on how to fill this out. I do want to just go over the first part of the reporting instructions. The rest are kind of self-explanatory and are also on the commodity sheet. But the line item data is going to be filled in the commodities tab, right? And there are red stars here as a required field, and those are required to be filled for it to be considered a complete report. Because for our tracking purposes, for example, we need to be aware of what fiscal year we are looking at, right? So that we report the proper fiscal year. What vendor, so that we're not duplicating any statewide vendors. It's kind of self-explanatory here, but we need to track what product category it is in, and we have drop-down menus for that. And so continuing on, these things with a red star do need to be filled out. If the product description is blank, for example, or if it's not, or if there is no product description, I won't be able to identify what it is that that you bought from this vendor. So there are, I understand that it is a number of columns that are all required, and it is quite a bit of data to provide, but these are necessary columns that that we need for this report. So enter the quarterly data by line item. Vendors/agencies must fill required columns marked with a star in order to be accepted as a completed report. So I'm gonna go over here into the commodities tab, and this is where everything will be shown in terms of what was bought and what it was reported. The disclaimer I will have is that this was actual data from a past fiscal year from multiple, a number of agencies kind of put into one sample. I don't want to specifically say which agency, but this is an example of of a completed report of data that was filled out in detail and accurately. So I thought it was a really good example to show here. But let me give you a little more introduction to what we're looking at in the spreadsheet. So the yellow columns here kind of indicate just basic product information. When you bought it, who you bought it from, what category, who made it, what are the what's like the what is it, SKU, the unique ID number, what is the name of the product. So if you were to look it up on the internet with this Dell 27 4K monitor notation, would you be able to find it? So for some examples, if it's like if it just says laptop monitor, that basically isn't enough information to determine anything about it in terms of whether it can be found online or whether you have any information on the environmental attributes of the product. So product description is definitely an important one, and I put in here that there are some very good filled out examples. There are also some that are I would say semi filled out, and I like using this as an example because it's hard to get the whole spreadsheet looking perfect, but if there's enough information filled out here, it still is adequate and reportable. So staples, 30% recycled content, white commodity cut sheet, that gives me enough information to verify that product. Because my process is I'm going through these spreadsheets and analyzing them and then verifying yes or no as a green product, and what information do I have to verify that. So these columns here represent the environmental attributes related to the product. You see in these examples here, not every product is going to have sufficient environmental attributes. That's just the way it is. But since we're required to report all purchases, there will be some environmental attributes and some that won't. So this is just an example of it. But let me just go through these columns real quickly. Environmental certifications, again, those are the eco labels I'm talking about. That big table, that list that I showed you, these are all of the listed eco labels that are in that table. So we do have drop-down menus to make it a little bit easier to enter that. And this list is there's other eco labels out there internationally. So if there are any other certifications that are relative to the product that's being reported, and that's included, it doesn't have to be on this list. It could be something else. But just showing an example of the third-party verified product here. This looks like Ultrasoft 3-ply premium facial tissues. So FSC certified facial tissues. There can be a link to provide the documentation. If there's recycled content, it is reported over here. And then any other environmental attributes. This is specific to the product that you have. These columns, or these rows right here, give information about what this column's asking for. So other environmental attributes that provide sustainable benefits throughout the product life cycle. For example, high yield or remanufactured toner cartridges. So again, yellow indicates basic product information. Again, that has to be filled out with the red asterisk. These, I would say, do not have the red asterisk because not every product is going to have environmental attributes, but these are here to track whether it is green or not. And then the blue indicates price and quantity information, which is also very necessary to have in the report. We want to know how much in green spend we had, and we want to know how many of third-party certified products we had. So again, I know that the columns go from A to S, and that is a pretty large spreadsheet, but I'm here to help the process of requesting vendor data, analyzing their data, or maybe trying to get more information from the Amazon purchases to report. And I hope that this template can hopefully make it possible for you to feel more confident about providing a green purchasing report. I'm just going to show you the other contents of this spreadsheet. This is for services. We've just started receiving reporting for services, and we're still forming the best way to track it. But I would say if you had services, just include it the best way you can. And on our end, we can try to get any other information from that. I know that IPM services, integrated pest management, is pretty easy to verify that it is green because you're using integrated pest management methods. So some are going to be harder to identify as a green service, and some are going to be much easier. So I would say include it, and we'll look at it and see if there's any more information that we need. And here's the reference table that I showed earlier. I'm just going to show you briefly that, again, here's all of our product categories, and here's all of our eco-labels. This is also found in our reporting page on our website. A lot of these resources are readily available. And there's also links to the registry here for these eco-labels. Whether you want to gain more information about the eco-label, excuse me, the eco-label and what it does, and also to see for verification if again there is a link to documentation column here. So that's another way for verifying products, like if it's FSC certified, there could be a link to that product for verification. But also these links here will take you to that registry. Like BPI will take you to a registry of all certified products by this eco-label. So that's what you're looking at there. And again, for services, same product categories or same service categories, and again, the eco-labels that match that service and links to it. So that's everything in the reporting template. I know I went through a lot there. I'm going to go back to my slides and my presentation. We are going to have time for questions at the end. I have a couple of slides just to go over some final things to do before submitting the report over to the GPC. So checking the report for accuracy, right? Making sure that all required columns are filled. Let's say you had 4 or 5 vendors that weren't on that statewide vendor list that you need data from. They all sent you their data. Some of them was filled out very nicely and accurately. Some of it was harder to gain information from. So my one request is that you double check the accuracy and that product descriptions are filled out adequately when vendors submit their data over to you. product descriptions, like, for example, copy paper. If it just says copy paper, that's not enough information. If it has this American Eagle number 20, 30% recycled copy paper, that is perfect. That's all that we need in terms of the description to verify. Again, cost values and quantity are filled in, and sometimes there's function errors, so that there's no errors in the spreadsheet. So there's just a couple things to look for. If you're able to do that and double check and maybe have the vendor fix whatever was entered wrong before submitting to me, that I would greatly appreciate that on your end. And I'm totally here to help and provide any assistance that I can with the process of either requesting data, or I don't know what to look at through the spreadsheet. We can always schedule time separate from this training to go over. So I just want to go over the reporting deadlines to know when, just so that it's all on your radar for when these quarterly reports are due. You can also see it on the resources for agency reporting on our website. So data is always due 45 days after each quarter, and the final deadline again is September 1st to submit all fiscal quarters. So definitely not November 1st. That would be a little too late for me, and I would be a little backed up. So September 1st for the final deadline of sending all fiscal quarters. But the breakdown is quarters 1 and 2 can be sent combined. The reason why we ask for quarter 1 and 2 combined is because we're doing our annual reporting during the end of quarter 1. So I'm just being honest, I won't really have the time to look at quarter 1 until the time that quarter 2 submission is due. So agency data is due to DGS February 14th for quarter 1 and 2. I just realized this is the reporting deadlines for fiscal year 2025. So the updated reporting deadlines, I apologize, are going to be on our website. I believe that the reporting deadline is still February 14th for quarters 1 and 2. So I'm sorry about that, but
it's actually the 13th because the 14th is a Saturday.
Right. Okay. So it would be the final work day of that 45-day period. So yes, so the updated reporting deadlines are on the website. Sorry about this slide, how it's from last year, but it's still consistent with 45 days after each quarter, and the September 1st deadline is every year. If you need an extension, we try to have some understanding on our end because we are asking quite a lot from the reporting designees, and we do understand that you all have probably a full workload of things that don't involve green purchasing, this green purchasing report. So if you need an extension, please let us know in advance, and please have a proposed submission date. And that is just for that's mainly for our us to keep you marked down as compliant and being responsive, that we are in communication with you all, and we understand that there's, I guess, challenges going on with providing the report, and that we can definitely work with. So as long as you're being responsive, I would say that we have a number of agencies that need extensions sometimes for their deadlines. So we try to work with that as long as you give us a proposed submission date, and if you can give us any detail on what it is that you're still needing from vendors or from us. So a couple further slides, reporting designees. I would say for each agency to know, or if you don't know, to establish who the agency reporting designee is. I have a contact list of reporting designees, and I understand that people change their roles, or change which agency they work for, or things like that. So I understand that that can be a revolving door. So please let us know who will be submitting the green purchasing reports. I think for the most part, I've been in communication with a number of you who are in this call, so I think I am aware of who's submitting those agency reports. But if anything changes, please let me know.
Can
And
I just jump in here really quick for 2
yeah,
seconds?
of course.
Along with letting us know who your designee is, any agency that has a backup designee, if you could let us know that too. And then something that we're going to start really looking to do this year, because the governor's office is looking to us to get compliance. We're going to be starting to let leadership know about report submissions, just so that way, everybody's kind of in the loop of, yes, we received reports, or yes, your agency was responsive. So if you guys could let us know if there is a particular leadership contact that we should have for your agency, that would definitely help us fill in our information without having to go do the digging.
Great, thank you. And I know that the folks on this call, I'm 100% confident in your responsiveness, just based off of the fact that you attended this training and wanted to learn more and understand. So again, appreciate you all and your involvement in getting these reports down. So that we ensure continued compliance, having that information is important. As Vicki also summed up, that we're also reaching out to more leadership positions at each agency to give them an update on how reporting compliance is going. So again, if there's anything more that you're not getting from us, please let us know, because we want to make sure that you have all of the resources and the knowledge and the I guess any tools available, so that we're not leaving you hanging with submitting this report. So our resource page, which is going to be very useful to you all, you actually can see the last agency reporting training back in October, but the most updated one here will be added to the website once this is done. All of the necessary statutes that you need for reporting requirements, the template spreadsheet is in there that you can download. There's some guidance on agency reporting. It'll give some brief information. Everything that I covered in this training will also kind of overlap with the guidance on agency reporting. And then our reporting schedule, which please check the website, because this image is also outdated. Here's one of my favorite slides, because I love to show how green purchasing makes an impact, thanks to all of the agency reporting designees and vendors who put the efforts to provide reports that we were able to analyze and confirm green spend, environmental benefits, and kind of how that equates in a real life scenario. So I really love this slide that we can look at all that we documented from last year's reporting. Looks like we saved over $7 million from just from buying green products. Now the benefits are calculated through these different calculators that I'm not going to go into much detail with, but this table kind of gives a reference of what are we remediating in the environment from buying green products, and what that equates to. So we saved a lot on electric vehicles, removing CO2, a lot of LED lighting, recycled products. We're actually able to see through each individual report, after we calculate the benefits, all that we've accomplished at the state with our green purchasing power. And what I really like on the image to the left is it gives you a reference, like if we're talking about greenhouse gas or energy savings, like energy savings, electricity saved 87 gigawatt hours. That equals to 7,320 homes annual energy use. So when you put into that perspective, this is kind of to show that your reports and our what we buy absolutely make a difference. And when we're in our day-to-day work mode, sometimes it's hard to zoom out and really see the impact that we're making. So that's here. I leave this here to kind of give recognition to, we have more to do and we still have a ways to go, but we're making a lot of progress with at a state level with green purchasing. And I hope that with these continued trainings and these on how to provide green purchasing reports, that we can see some more great benefits that we've provided at the state. Again, I would love to give recognition on a bigger level to those who have been, really supportive of the program and been very compliant with like green purchasing requirements. So thanks again for all of you being here. I hope you learned something from the report, and thank you a lot for your time. We're going to have